It's first off, Andy, as always, thanks for the opportunity, the platform to actually speak to what is happening in the moment across our media of technology, media marketing and entertainment is something that we're blessed to have, and I appreciate you for giving us that platform. We've had these conversations privately before. The reality is, if I go all the way back in my professional history, the feeling that I think about is I've always been alone. And that has been one of the more troubling things to deal with. There are books written now on what people are described as imposter syndrome. And the thing that kicks it or triggers it is when you arrive at an event and you look around and the event feels unfamiliar. This is despite being qualified to be there, being credentialed to be there, knowing that you have a voice in the room that is a voice built on expertise and experience, but still the room feels unfamiliar, and it's driven by the fact that you're alone. And I suspect that almost all classes that are diverse or labeled as not the norm have felt that. And I know for me personally, that's been the case when I go all the way back in my career, as far back as Conde Nast. This was never done intentionally. It's not done by my colleagues or anyone else. It just happens to be the reality that Black people have had to face in this industry, because the industry, even though it's understood the importance and power of diversity, it's understood the importance of looking like the audiences that consume all the content we create. It yet hasn't really solved the issues and the problems. Those problems are real, they're prevalent, and they happen when you see them right in front of you when you show up at an event, and again you're alone there. So those have been the feelings. It's been the thing that has catalyzed or created some of the things that we've started in terms of just groups that really were started as safe houses, safe spaces for people of color or for diverse people to gather. So one of the things that I've told colleagues recently, and maybe it's an admission of the real source point for the start of I.D.E.A. The I.D.E.A initiative, which is inclusion, diversity, equality, and awareness, was started by colleagues in the space, friends in the space. The gathering of these friends was, we were gathering for a safe house. We were gathering for a safe space to be able to talk about what we experienced in terms of unconscious bias, what we experienced in terms of, you know, discrimination sometimes that wasn't always intended. Maybe it was, but affected us nonetheless, affected our ability to perform at our best. Um, it was our safe space to talk about feeling like an imposter in the room, feeling like we weren't going to be accepted, or that our voice had to be heard through a filter. And that filter was often one where we chose our words carefully so that we didn't come across and fit a stereotype that oftentimes we knew existed. We didn't want to come across or be perceived as the angry Black man or the emotional Black woman. And that safe space, the desire for that, brought like minded people, professionals in the space together. And us coming together really was this opportunity just for us to talk to each other. It turned into I.D.E.A birthed out of that and turned into this thing that said, listen, we've done this alone. We've actually carved our way here, but we have a responsibility now to reach back and make sure that we can actually help people of color, women, um, be more successful, find their own way onto boards, into senior positions at their companies, having larger span of control, and then therefore being able to achieve some of the goals they had in mind. Because often for us, we didn't necessarily have as many of those advocates and sponsors to get there. So that was the idea and the impetus for I.D.E.A. How do you actually take on the challenge of diversity and inclusion, but with a business lens, knowing that we could actually improve businesses if you ever really allowed us to be our full authentic selves in the professional environment. And that was really the thinking behind it. I'm more than hopeful now. I am actually convinced that this is a change. We are forever transformed in a way that we've not been before. And I feel convinced that that has happened. Now, what we do with it is yet to be seen. But I've gone through the range of emotions. I have been as angry and as frustrated, mostly exhausted by what I've seen. I am tired. Many would say they're tired of compensating for the ignorance of those around us, just compensating for their lack of awareness around how their activities and behaviors were disruptive to our ability to be productive in a work environment that we wanted to be in. But over these last few weeks, I've had the kind of sort of reach outs, meaningful connections with colleagues who don't happen to be Black, who have simply said, you know what, I wasn't aware. How do I learn? How do I become more understanding of what this experience has meant? And then how do I get into a position where I can lend you the privilege that I have? And accepting that there is a privilege that they have that their Black colleagues in the Black community hasn't had. Those conversations have got me to this place of encouragement. But this has been going on for 400 years of slavery, and since then, that's why organizations are focused on helping inner city kids or kids who are not who are at risk, I would say, to succeed. And the risk profile for them is simply created by the fact that they're not having access to the same things that are available in public schools in other neighborhoods. That's why my involvement with Mouse and that non-for-profit has been so important to me. And in my professional life, I can't tell you the number of people I've taken on mentorship for just because I've wanted to make sure that their opportunities were there. And again, that's why I.D.E.A has done what it's done. In this moment, I couldn't be more proud of my company, though. AT&T has taken a real sort of forward movement here, and I'm proud of what they've done. And I've seen an awakening across the leadership that I'm convinced is going to take. And the company has already been a leader in diversity and inclusion, but across Warner Media and AT&T, I really see our leaders now bringing and convening conversations, convening to the table cross section of our colleagues and asking the question, taking this sort of listen first, absorb and learn and understand, and then figure out where are there pockets that we can actually create leadership activity to move forward. And I'm very proud of that. So, Andy, along with you, I am at this point where my hope feels like it's being fueled with real action. I'm not seeing all the results yet, but now we're beginning to measure a starting point. If we measure accurately the starting point and use that measuring stick to manage our movement forward, I'm convinced that this is going to transform the industry. That's the hope. That's what I'm motivated by and excited about right now.